Do you know where this map is from? If you do, leave a comment down below because I'm going to be doing it as soon as I finish Circus Maximus. Greetings everybody, it's Jim. You'll see this spectacle of a game at every major convention, and it brings people to the table, young and old, seasoned gamers, brand new gamers. Everybody's invited and everybody wants to play. And I always see it at a convention, and I never get a chance to get my hands around it for years now because I'm always, at the shows, and after 8 hours, you just go get to eat, and by the time you're done, you're just sitting in your room waiting for the next day. But I got to play it last night on my table, and man, what a blast it was. And I learned about a lot about what I think gaming is for me anymore anyway, and the differences of the approach of playing games. Today, I'm going to be giving you my take on why you should be playing Circus Maximus. I can't say it was an epiphany of what I've learned last night because it was a long time coming. I played so many games on that table behind me, making hundreds of these videos, and I've played games solo all my life, whether nobody else was around or could handle the game that I was playing, or I just wanted to learn the rules, etc. But just last night, I had so much fun. It's like, I just love playing games solo and as a simulation, not even as a game. Because a game is meant to be defeated. A simulation is meant to be experienced. And that's what I get anymore, because I think I would have more fun playing that the way I did last night than I would have played that at a convention, and there's a number of reasons for that. Everybody else is probably trying to learn the rules. I learn the rules pretty fast, waiting for other people's turns, and where I'm playing every turn here. The concept of Circus Maximus is simple enough. You're trying to go around an oval track 3 times and finish first while attacking your opponents and not trying to avoid getting attacked. And there's so many variables in it, it really gets to be an exciting race by the end. The game's also been adapted by other game companies such as FASA for Circus Imperium, which is based on the Renegade Legion line of games, science fiction with tanks and interceptors in space and such, with a Roman Empire feel. The only difference here with Circus Imperium, other than there might be a few different rules, the main one that I see right away is the idea that the wildebeests that are in the front that replace the horses can actually attack. And they can go wild and frenzy, as a matter of fact, if you whip them too much. And they can attack the drivers as opposed to the horses, which don't do much except for just run really fast. And this is where the beauty of the game really takes place, is the Chariot race log. Okay, because they could easily streamline this game down for kids and newbies and stuff if they wanted to, where it's just the driver's skill, the speed of the horses, and the damage capacity of the chariot, right? And that would be it. And even though those things exist here, they exist in different ways, where it actually feels like you're playing a game of BattleTech or Starfleet Battles, where the detail is in the stat sheet, and by the time you're on your third lap, it tells a story. Right? And then it's like, what are you going to take advantage of? What's been hit the most? Can you get there? And such. And that happens here. So let's start with the top here on the Chariot race log with the performance chart. There's 4 categories: driver, car, team speed, endurance. All of them equally important, very well balanced, by the way. And so you get 4 prep points, as you see on the third line there, and you can spend it on getting a better driver, which allows you to attack, evade attacks, and take corners a little bit tighter, which we'll learn is very important. Then you got the car, whether you have a light, normal, or a heavy car, which allows for having scythe blades on it. If you don't know what those are, and you have seen the movie Grease, and you've seen Grease Lightning with those big side blades on the wheels, is basically the idea. Does extra damage heavily, by the way, to other cars. The team speed, simple enough, slow to fast. That's an important one, of course. They're all equally important. And then endurance, where you get a lot of freebie points, actually. And it reminds me of a game of World War I from SPI. We'll get into that a little bit. But those are the 4 ideas of the categories. The next line is for the faction and the driver's name. The driver's name, you can make a fictitious name or put your own in there, but the faction does matter because in this game you generally are playing on a team. So basically, if there's 4 players, everybody's getting 2 chariots apiece. If you're playing with 2 players, everybody's getting 4 chariots apiece. That does matter. Now, next is the driver modifier. Of course, you just bought the in the categories what their basic driver modifier is, and it can get adjusted, during the game, whether you get damaged, whether you get jostled trying to go around the corner. It makes that go up and down. So it's on the right there. It takes track of what your current driver modifier is. And next is the driver's hits, and you roll randomly on this chart that just popped up there. You roll die. It is modified by your driver modifier, and so you can get up to 10 hits. You could be as low as 5, and it does, again, matter. Now, so next is the car and wheel damage part. Now, as far as the car goes, it's just what you bought up top from the prep points. It's either a light, normal, or heavy. We explained the heavy that it has the scythe blades on it, but the light one does -3 to the opponent's damage, so it just can't do any damage. There's no benefit for having a light car other than the fact that you're just not spending prep points. You're saving an extra prep point. If you were to take, you get 4 points, so you get 1 on average. So you're using it, so you're saying, I'm not going to try to ram anybody. Okay, now wheel damage, nothing happens at the beginning of the game. Every car gets 10 points. Even the heavies get 10 points, and the lights get 10 points for each wheel. Okay, now this is going to be important because as wheels take damage from getting nailed by the cars and stuff in ram attacks, basically what happens is every time that happens, you have to roll 2d6. And basically, and I think it might be modified by the current driver modifier. I can't recall. But if it's more if the damage is more than a dice roll, you mark it off from right to left. So if you roll, if you take 3 points, so you're now at 7 hit points left. If you roll more than the dice roll, the whole chariot flips and you're out of the game. The wheel is a big important part of it. And if it's equal to the damage roll, you're just increasing the damage by 1 more. Okay, and then of course if you roll less, nothing happens. So that's a big deal. Now next, after that, we have the total horse speed. Now every horse has its own hit points and speed. The hit points are equal to the speed. So you roll on this chart right here, the team speed chart, depending on what category you bought, whether it's slow, medium, or fast. I find it funny that they said 0, 1, 2 here, and they just didn't say slow, medium, fast. I think that would have made it a little bit easier to understand. But these are what your horses are going to be. Now, generally, the horses on the outside are a little bit stronger than the ones in the middle because they got to take the big damage first. If you just start with the lowest on the outside, you're in trouble already because the horses can actually stop the chariot if they go down, and you got to cut them away the whole 9 yards. But with those numbers added up is the total speed, the top speed, I should say, for your horse team. Now, I know I said that everything was balanced up at the top, but part of me actually wants to say maybe a little that endurance might be a little bit more. I think after playing, I'd be a little bit more I'd be pretty nervous having only 21 endurance points to start the race, okay? Which can happen. Here's the endurance chart there, and of course, depending on your category that you bought, you can have a lot of endurance points or you can have just a few. The thing is, endurance points are used for a number of things. If you're along a stretch, you going a certain speed, like let's say 15, you want to whip your horses, you roll 1 die, you say that, and you roll 1 die, let's say you roll a 4, now you're going 4 extra, your top speed is now 19 for that turn, but now you got to pay for endurance. Okay, if you're trying to strain a corner and go faster than the road that you're on, we'll get into that out a little bit. But if you're trying to go too fast around a corner, you have to pay endurance to be able to do so. Also, it allows you to avoid attacks from the enemy. This is where it reminds me of World War I from SPI, because a lot of the times when you're battling and it would tell you to retreat or something like that, you could just spend a resource point up top and then it wouldn't move. Right? The same thing happens here. So when your opponent attacks, sometimes, because if you take the attack, it's actually worse on your vehicle. Okay, it's a lot of bad news can happen really quickly, so it's better to just say I'll evade or I'll hit the brakes, both of which generally can cost you endurance. I think one costs movement points, but the other costs endurance. So we'll get more into that. But there's just so much that happens here. But these are like almost freebie hit points. So it's very versatile power points, let's say. Not even hit points, because there's so many different things you can do with speed and everything like that. So power points for your chariot. A chip pull system is used for initiative to make things exciting, but it also makes it a little bit of a luck factor involved as well. Now, mind you, for 3 laps, the luck factor will probably settle in, but, when does it settle in for you, right? And it also can make some weird situations, like somebody going last on one round, but will go first on the next round, so they get 2 turns in a row, technically. Now, sure, you could probably modify it so that person can't possibly go. You make a rule, but I just think it's just go with it. It's part of the chaotic fun of the game. All right, so here's one of the most intimidating parts of the game, not because of rules, but because it's just intimidating, and that is the cornering. Okay, all these numbers represent the maximum speed that your chariot can go into when taking a turn. Now, the thing is, that's defined by when your horses enter it. Okay, so there's 2 counters to define your chariot: the horses team and the car and the driver itself. As soon as the horses enter one of those numbers, you got to check your speed. If it's faster than what it's labeled, you have to check on the corner strain chart, and even going 1 over the safe speed risks your chariot to completely flip and knock you out of the race. Now, mind you, on a 1, it's only going to happen like on an 18 or more, and this is a 3d6, by the way. It's a 3d6 modified by your driver, your current driver modifier. So if you have a good driver, that you won't even risk flipping on a 1 or a 2. Okay, even though bad stuff can still happen, but you really want to push the limits a little bit, or you find that you have to in some cases. You're going to. Now, when you start getting into 4s and 5s over the speed limit, you're risking something guaranteed to almost happen. I mean, not necessarily guaranteed, but you're really risking it here. Now, the good thing is, so let me explain these. S means side slip. You just go 1 to the outside. You're going so fast, you just gotta go. No, it doesn't cost you any movement. You just do it. And of course, if you might end up hitting some other cars and just ramming them accidentally. An SS is a side slip. It's a double side slip. It's you moving 2 to the outside, and then you can't strain your horses the next turn. You have to do the speed limit, basically. J is when things start to get real bad, though. That's getting jostled. The pilot, or your driver, is at -3 with their current driver modifier, and it recovers 1 a turn. LH, RH, left horse, right horse, they take damage. FP, game's over. The cart flips, ends up somewhere else. The driver gets dragged off. And anytime the cart flips, by the way, or the chariot flips, the driver is getting dragged by the horses, and he has a chance to cut themselves loose. They got to roll 2d6, and if it's under their hit points, they cut themselves loose. If not, they're getting dragged, and they're rolling a die and having it, and that's the number of hit point, the damage they take, and they get the chance to free themselves next turn, while the horses at the current speed just keep running around the track for the rest of the game. Now, one of the things about making these rolls is, if you do make the roll, like say you're going through the 15 lane and you're going 20, okay, you roll the dice to see what happens. Regardless if you take damage or not, you can still continue and just go. You don't have to stop. You don't have to re-roll every time you move. Once you've made the roll, you finish the turn that way, as long as you don't do something stupid like saying I'm going to go into a new lane. All right, the basics of attacking is pretty straightforward. Your car has to be adjacent to whatever you're attacking. Now, when you're looking at the corners here, you can see that they're definitely not adjacent. The thing is, you just have to be, if it's off because of the way the corners work here, the corner squares, if you're ahead of the car, the thing you're adjacent to, then you can attack it. If you're behind it a little bit, you cannot. So anyway, how do you attack? Well, the thing is, what can you attack? If you are, like in this example, the cart is adjacent, which includes the driver and the car, right? So you are adjacent. Let's say red is adjacent to brown here. It can attack the driver of the car. So to attack at all, and let's just say that at all, you're going to attack them, and the defender gets a choice. It can either hit the brakes and pay 2 endurance to do so and move back 1 space, which means you can also spend another movement point, and it costs a movement point to attack, by the way. But you can use the movement point then to attack the horses in this case, because if he retreated, then the horses would be there. And so, okay, I'll attack the horses instead, and they can break again for 2 more endurance points and get out of the way of that. So as you can see, just by threatening to attack, you can make your opponent spend endurance points, because nobody wants to get attacked in this, because all kinds of bad things can happen. So if you want to whip the driver, you can whip the driver. It's a little bit risky because the driver can actually grab your whip. You may just plain miss, but you can also do but those are smaller caveats, but you can also wound the driver, which knocks down his CDM and his hit points. And as your hit points get nailed in the game as far as the driver, when you lose half of it, you're at -1 CDM. When you're at 33%, I think you lose another CDM permanently. But basically, that's what happens when you're attacking the driver. Now, if you just want to ram the guy, let's say you roll on a chart, and again, you get +3 if you have a heavy chariot, because you got those scythe blades going. So you're generally these are going to be attacking the wheels. And as we said before, as soon as you attack the wheels and they take more than 2 points of damage, they're going to have to start rolling for automatic flip. Okay, so that is a big deal. The chariot, that's why you have to spend so many points just to get a heavy chariot, because it is so effective of a way to eliminate somebody easily. Now, if you want to attack the horses, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can whip the horses, and what that'll do is 2 things. Well, if you only attack and they hit for 1 or 2, they just lose that many endurance points. But not even health on the horse, it's just endurance points of the entire chariot. So it's another way to do that, to make them lose that. But another thing you could do, if you roll more than 2, what's going to happen is you're going to roll another die, and that's their new speed that they're going to go for next turn, or the current turn, depending if they've moved or not yet. And then they have to lose that many endurance points as well. So you're getting the best of both worlds. Now, you might say, well, gee, why? When's the best time to whip them? Well, obviously, right before a turn. Maybe not on a stretch when you're helping them out there. It's like, okay, yeah, I spent some. You made me spend some endurance. I was going to do that anyway, so it doesn't matter. But definitely around the turn is going to cause some major havoc if you roll at the right time. Most of the things that you could do, like I said, as the defender, you can break and spend 2 endurance points and just move back. But you can also do is just evade, which costs 2 movement points either on your current turn or the next turn. So you could you side slip out of the way. But, well, no, you actually move normal, but you just kind of move out of the way. Because to move forward and change in this game, you move forward, then you move over 1. And it costs 2 to do that onto the outside lane, 2 movement points, or 1 movement point to the outside lane. So that's how basically attacks work. Okay, so as far as attacking goes, it costs 1 movement point to attack, and you can only attack once per square. You got to move into a new square. You just can't sit there all day and soak up all your movement before you take a turn. But it is a good idea to attack before you take a turn, and maybe shave off a movement or 2. But the thing is, when you have to be adjacent. It's your car that's doing the attacking, not the horses. So your car has to be adjacent to whatever it's attacking. Here, the cars are adjacent to each other. Red can attack brown, and vice versa. Quite often, it's brown's turn. Now, how does that work when it goes around the corners? Because they're adjacent, but they're a little off. They have something special here. So basically, if they are adjacent and your counter is a little bit further ahead than the other, you can attack. If it's behind, it cannot. So that's a little bit of a difference there. So now the thing is, regardless of what you're attacking, the defender gets a chance to say, no, that's not happening. I'm going to try to evade, or I'm going to try to hit the brakes. So the first thing you do is both sides roll 2d6, add their current driver modifier, and if the attacker wins, nothing, the defense doesn't happen. No evasion, no brakes. It's the attack. He gets to try his attack. Okay, but if the defender wins, well, then they get to evade or hit the brakes. Hitting the brakes is quite simple. You move back 1. they spend 2 endurance points, which is a kind of a small victory for the attacker, and that's it. Or they can try something better that saves endurance points, and that's evade, where they actually move forward and go into another lane, just like in regular movement. If they're going into the inside track, it's going to cost them 2, and they're going in the outside track, it's going to cost them only 1. But it costs them that in their next movement phase, whether they've moved yet this round or they're going to have to wait till the next round. So that's how that works. So whipping the other driver is always fun, and if your car is adjacent to the other car, it's one of the attacks you can choose. Basically, you're going to roll a 2d6 and add your current driver modifier. So are they, and then you're going to come up with you're going to combine those results, and you're going to come up with a lash factor. And then you're going to look on the chart here, roll 2d6 and cross-reference the lash factor, what you rolled, and it's going to give you a result. Now, this chart's fun because it reminds me of how much they tried to make 2d6 happen, right? Because in most games, nowadays, I would bet you they would just roll a 1d10 or something like that. Because generally, in most charts that are just kind of linear, they would be the worst result would be on the bottom or the top, maybe. But in this one, like, the worst result is a G, because that is like the opponent grabs your whip and you lose it for the rest of the game. You can't whip your horses, you can't whip anybody else's opponents, you can't do a thing. So they grab your whip. But it's, as you can see, the G's are all over the place, and in some cases multiples, right? Because they're trying to make a percentage happen. So basically in any other chart, it would be all on the bottom and you'd be rolling a percentile or something like that. It would just be a little bit cleaner. With 2d6, they've got to make them go all over the place, so it's a lot of fun nonetheless. But B is for break. It just means that break that they could have done if they were to evade, they just do that anyway. So it's not the best. At the same time, it's like they avoided the attack anyway, but they still got to pay the 2 endurance, so it's not bad. Swerve is like a side slip. They just get out of the way. M is movement. They actually roll a die, and now their top speed for their next movement is down. And then the W is a wound. They're going to take 1 driver hit. Okay, and then there's a critical hit in the advanced game. I think you should just do it anyway, because the advanced rules are not complicated, by the way. We'll get into that in a little bit, but they're not complicated. But that's a driver lash attack. Whipping the opponent's pretty safe, right? The most of you're going to do is lose your whip, okay? And the rewards are rather moderate at best. But at the same time, compare that to just voluntarily ramming your car into theirs. What you're going to do is you're going to roll 3d6 and modify it by yours and the opponent's current driver modifier. And then you're going to get a result. Maybe both cars will be damaged. Maybe nothing will happen, but maybe only you'll get hurt, or maybe only your defender, which is the one you really want. So when a car is damaged, though, you're going to roll 2d6, and you're going to modify it if you have a light vehicle that you're attacking with. That's going to be -3 to that roll, and if you got the heavy one with the scythe blades, that's going to be +3 to the roll. And as you can see on the chart here, the wheel damage can be pretty heavy. Now, again, going over the wheel damage, anytime you take wheel damage, you got to immediately roll 2d6. If it's less than the damage you've taken, your car is going to flip. That's it. You're out. As simple as that. So these just one attack can end the game right there. Maybe 2, right? 2 of these simple attacks, and then this is why we have the evade rules, right? Where the defender has to get the hell out of dodge and say, nope, not taking that. All you got to do is threaten that you might try to do wheel damage to the opponent, and they're going to try to get the heck out of dodge. There's 2 different ways to attack the horses. Basically, one is the voluntary ram attack, just like you would before with the other guy's car. But the only difference being that there's no risk to you. Okay, so you're going to roll 2d6, and you're going to modify it again, whether you have the scythe blades or you have the light chariot, and you're going to most likely do injury points to the outermost horse, which is also going to, if it doesn't outright kill it, it's going to lower the total top speed of the team, okay? If it does die, all kinds of shenanigans going to happen. It's like the driver's it's going to stop the whole thing. Driver's got to cut it loose, and then they can keep going with the new horses. So it's almost like you really want to stop somebody up. That's a good way to do it. Now, the other way is to whip the horse. Now this one takes a little bit of finesse because you really want to do this just before they're getting out into a corner, right? With a certain amount of speed, because what you're doing is basically if you roll a 1 or a 2, you're going to, and it's modified, I believe, by your current driver modifier, but if you only do 1 or 2 points of damage, it just comes off the endurance. It doesn't come off the horse or nothing. But if you roll more than 3, then you roll again, 1d6 again, and then that number is actually, they lose that many endurance points, and their top speed for their next turn just got changed. Okay, now the only thing I wonder about this is if they've actually already have gone, if their top speed is going to change for the next turn, all they got to say is, well, I'll just go that much lower, right? So it doesn't make much sense. But if you catch that, unless you know something different than I do, let me know in the comments down below on that one. But if you catch them just before they are about to move, you're going to add 1d6 to them just as they're about to enter the turn and possibly flip their chariot. That could be a lot of fun. I find it funny that they added the optional rules afterwards because they take very little work. Now, mind you, maybe I'm wrong in that because when you're trying to learn a game, and it is a lot going on, I did have to check things from time to time when I'm playing. But really, the rewards for doing the optional rules they have are for very little work, quite honestly. Like if you get whipped, you got to check on the critical chart, and it's not a guarantee, but something special will happen, and that's cool. Like I talked about earlier about your driver, if the cart flips, they get dragged by the horses for a little bit. That's not hard. Of course, when the chariot flips, then you roll to see where it lands, and it stays there for the rest of the game. Not hard things. I think that the critical is actually, if you are a seasoned gamer, you're going to be able to handle it, regardless if you got to worry about the basic rules first. Now they have a campaign game that as long as you're into playing Circus Maximus every week for about 8 to 10 weeks, it actually would benefit a lot. Now you could play this with other games actually if you just wanted to play the betting side of the game and just have the race as a side note, probably play something else with it, or a streamlined version of Circus Maximus at the very least. But the idea is you get money, you're trying to invest in better horses, better drivers, so you can win more races and make more money that way. But along the way, you're also betting, not just on yourself, but maybe a competitor, that is going to win or something like that. Or you can actually, in between races, with your faction, making alliances with other factions to go against these other drivers that are too far ahead. Maybe it's just the idea that you're trying to win the most money at the end of a season, or it's a Grand Prix and you gain points as you go. Either way is good, and I would like to experience both, but it's definitely an investment to play like Circus Maximus 10 times in a number of weeks. I'm wearing a different shirt right now because I was just about to upload this and I just realized I forgot an important point that I was thinking about last night. I had it up on the board. But the point is, to make a quicker version of Circus Maximus, just use a 1 lap and a half maybe, and just get right to the nitty gritty, because what it comes down to is the endurance allows you to use up so many things to avoid attacks and such, because that's what you want to do. You don't want to get hit because so many bad things can happen. So you just rather get the heck out of dodge. So the thing is, whoever has the least amount of endurance, okay, you subtract that from everybody else's endurance. Of course, they're going to end up at 0, right? But everybody else will have some endurance. So you could do a lap and a half, and that would make for a quicker game. And then, of course, it allows it to get right to the nitty-gritty. Now, mind you, that loses some of the nuance of, the entire story of going around the track. But at the same time, like I said, it's just to get your quick fix in, just to play a sprint and see what happens. I think that would be worthwhile. So again, if you remember this map, just comment down below. And it's one of the games that I got that I actually had to hold my mail for as I left for Gen Con. I don't know why I ordered these things beforehand. Maybe I was a little bit worried they were going to go. Like this one, I actually paid about $100 for. It has the counters unpunched practically. I mean, there was 3 of them that came out, but you can put them back in. But if you own a copy of this and you have it intact, it's unpunched, it's about to go up in value because I'm going to punch mine. So it's a few other things that came in with that. There's a few S&T magazines. As you may know, I collect the S&T Strategy and Tactics SPI games from number 35 Flying Tigers up until when they sold to TSR. Mainly the Redmond-Simonson era is what I would call it. There might have been a few beforehand, but those get a little bit prehistoric anyway of the games. I wanted them to fit a certain format because it's just more for historical accuracy. There's probably a few games that I would like. I like to see those pre-stags game, as they call them. I don't even know what pre-stag stands for, but I wanted to try out their the Trojan, not the Trojan War, but they have one as Phalanx, I do believe it is called. I would like to see that one. Maybe I can get that one on the side, but I'm not going to stop getting the SPI games necessarily because there are a few like Swords and Stars, a few science fiction games that I don't have yet that I definitely want. And see if I can crack them down into mini games, or maybe I'll just keep them. I'm not sure. But anyway, and by the way, if anybody has an extra set of rules for Outreach from SPI, or I don't think maybe Star Soldier, but anyone's in that trilogy, let me know, because I bought a game of it and it didn't come with the rules. It came with everything pristine and I love it, but just no rules. And I can download it PDF, but that's not the same as having it, right? Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. I've been doing this video now for, it feels like forever. I thought I would just do a quick video and just run it down, but that's how these videos go for me. But anyway, I'll see you guys next video.